happening, something's springing into life. I won't give you the grid until we know for sure as to whether we're going to get pictures or not for this one. But of course what we did do was we did see a win earlier on today for Aidan Hills, who claimed a win. The race was brought to an abrupt halt, I'm afraid, as a result of an incident for Colin Wells out on circuit, who went quite heftily into the barriers on the start-finish line there, and the whole side of the car was very badly damaged. The car came to rest slap bang in the middle of the circuit with tyres and belting in front of those tyres strewn everywhere. And by the time that we'd got the safety car out briefly, then the red flags out and got it all cleared up, there was never going to be time to restart that race. So hugely unfortunate that we weren't able to see the conclusion of that race. But all of the cars now are lining up. A fine sight there, mate, Jack, as the Brands Hatch sunlight, the evening sunlight, glinting off them down there on the grid. Yeah,
the only issue which we may start to encounter is if we do have live pictures, at points they will just be silhouettes of Mazda MX-5s. We might not be able to pick between the colours. As such is the height of the sun at the moment, or lack thereof. But yeah, it's still great to see a capacity grid here at Brands Hatch. Silverstone, we weren't as lucky. We didn't have quite so many cars. But we do manage to fill the grid here at Brands Hatch. Of course, unfortunately, we won't see Colin Wells, understandably, and I don't think Adrian Burge has got out. That was the sister car, the Mark IV, very almost identical livery to Colin Wells, also from BC Cars. It came to rest after whatever happened to it at the bottom of Graham Hill Bend, and I've never seen it since, so I'm guessing mechanical issue.
One would have thought so, yeah. I mean, we were busy looking at Colin Wells, and to be fair, we didn't even spot that one, did we? To be perfectly honest, because it was directly behind where we had been looking following the Colin Wells incident. So we are still struggling to get any sort of picture on this one. What channel number did we say it was?
Whichever one we're on now. Yeah,
813. And is this one still doing the same on 813?
Yes.
It is. So clearly there's a technical issue which is going to prevent us possibly getting any pictures for this one. So we might be having to do it back off the circuit CCTV cameras once more. So cars are on the grid. We're just going to hang on until they start their rolling lap, and then I'll give you the grid for our second race of the day, the final race of the weekend for the Miata Trophy, because they will not be out tomorrow. They'll pack things away and head to Anglesey. Well, they know they're at Donington Park next on the 29th of June, before they then head to Anglesey on the coastal circuit. I think you're at that one,
I am.
Then it's Snetterton, Cadwell Park, Alton Park, and back to here to Brands Hatch, but they're on the Indy circuit at the tail end of October, where they're supporting the likes of the IndyCar 500, as it's called, the 500-minute Enduro KA race that takes place. Right, countdown can now commence, because we've now got the recovery unit back in behind the barriers. So with the cars on the grid, and apologies if our audio is going out on the live stream, but we can't see any images for it. And once the cars head on to the formation lap, I will guide you through the grid for this one. So for the second race of the day, this is based on the finishing positions from earlier on. It is number 8, Aidan Hills, who starts on pole position, and alongside him is Michael Nibbs. Row 2 of the grid sees Declan Lee line up alongside John Langridge. So the third row of the grid is number 88, which is Rowan Lundy and Nicholas Stott. Right, we now have some pictures, so welcome along to the live stream if you're just joining us. We can see the pictures now that will allow us to do that. So Declan Lee, as we said, and John Langridge on row number 2. Row 3 is Rowan Lundy and Nicholas Stott that sit there on row number 3. Row 4 of the grid is Will Morris and Drew Fletcher, with the next row of the grid being row 5 is Connor Clifford and Daniel Perrin-Smith. The 6th row of the grid, Alex Miller, lines up alongside Simon Fleet. And on row 7 of the grid, that's where we see John Robinson, who's got Dave Chapman for company. Row 8 of the grid, Clive Powell's on the inside of the 8th row of the grid alongside Jack Hodges. And then row 9 of the grid, it's Ian Abel and Dylan Stepney that comprise the 9th row of the grid. The inside of the 10th row, it's Edward McDermott, and he has got Martin Heath to keep him company on that 10th row of the grid. And row 11 sees Charlie Lane line up alongside Bruce Robinson. Ray Worley is next up on row number 12 with Liz Walton sitting alongside him. And then the final full row of the grid is Jude Worley, who has got Gary Smith keeping her company. Then there'll be a 2-row gap, and at the tail end of the field we should see Kevin Sylvain at the tail end of the grid. So this is our final Miata Trophy race of the weekend before they head to Donington Park on the 30th of June for the next of them. Whilst we didn't get the full race in earlier on because of that incident that befell Colin Wells, thankfully he's okay. The car will repair. I don't think it would have affected the outcome of the race because Aidan Hills was on fire.
Absolutely. I think it's still definitely one to watch. We're starting on pole position. We'll see what he can do. I think Michael Nibbs, Declan Lee and John Langridge starting second, third and fourth. That battle is just going to pick up exactly where it left off. And one battle I'm hoping does start to reignite is the battle between Ian Abel and Jack Hodges. Jack Hodges got the better of the two in the race we saw at the very start of this afternoon. I'm hoping they start fighting away again, because that was just lap after lap after lap after lap. Absolutely nose to tail. It was brilliant.
It was good fun, wasn't it? Good value, that one. Let's hope that we get more than just, what was it, 4 laps in, was it, earlier on when... 5 laps, wasn't it? I think the result was declared at 5 laps in the end. So hopefully this time we'll get the full 20 minutes in for this one, which should give them probably something like 12 laps, something like that, if we go the full distance. So Aidan Hills is the number 8 car that sits there on pole position, the light blue car with the orange flashes. Alongside him, it's sort of red from one side, but it's grey from the other, and it's got blue on the bonnet in the hands of Michael Nibbs. Row 2 of the grid, it's sort of a darkish green for Declan Lee alongside John Langridge's car, which is white with black and grey on it. And row 3 of the grid, it's the burgundy coloured car of Rowan Lundy alongside the light blue Dayglow pink and black car of Nicholas Stott. Watch out for, I would say, the man who made good progress off the back of the grid last time, having been given a 10-second penalty. The Dayglow yellow car in the middle of the field is Dylan Stepney. He had all of his qualifying times from this morning disallowed because the car was very slightly underweight and picked his way through the order well. He should go even better now that he is amongst the main pack this time through. Red lights on the gantry, and as the lights flash their way out now, it's a good start from pole position from Aidan Hills. It's not a bad start from the outside of the second row of the grid from John Langridge, who is drawing himself alongside Michael Nibbs as they head up towards Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. He's up the inside of Michael Nibbs, and it looks as though we are almost 3 wide on the way into the corner, but it is going to be Michael Nibbs that somehow hangs on to second place, and Aidan Hills is already looking to try and get a break away from Michael Nibbs, John Langridge, and then Declan Lee, who all settle into second, third and fourth places respectively. Somebody running very wide on the way out of Druids. They'll gather up the moment.
They will indeed. Poor start from Michael Nibbs. Immediately came under pressure from the 2 cars behind of John Langridge and Declan Lee. Declan Lee, he wanted to make it 3 wide. He was given the option, decided discretion is the better part of valour. Long race ahead. Let's see what he can do. He's already on the coattails of John Langridge and desperately trying to work his way up. Locked brakes on the run in towards Surtees. It's closer than ever, Mark.
There was a bit of a grassy moment, wasn't it, for Rowan Lundy heading in towards Graham Hill Bend, and that lost him 1 place at the wheel of the number 88 car that started 5th on the grid. So the speeds begin to build. Watch out for that Dayglow car of Dylan Stepney as he continues to try and weave his way through the order. He did lots of overtaking in race number 1 off the back of the grid. He'll look to do lots of overtaking in this one as well. Will Morris side by side as well. That was brave, wasn't it, round the outside at Hawthorne, but couldn't quite nick the place. And also bouncing over the curbs through Westfield Corner goes Declan Lee in his absolute efforts to try and get himself up into the podium spots in the early stages. But John Langridge is having none of that as they turn their way through Sheen Curve and up towards Stirling's on lap number 1.
Yeah, Declan Lee doing absolutely everything he can to work his way through and past John Langridge, having lost that place on the opening lap of the race. It just shows what a brilliant start John Langridge got as they work their way down towards Clark Curve for the first time. It is still Aidan Hills leading the way and trying to pull away ever further. Simon Fleet, again, he's trying to attack, he's trying to defend. I thought it was rather odd car placement on the running towards Clark Curve, but it works for him. For the moment, Michael Nibbs, having come under intense pressure on the opening lap of the race, has just put about a car's length, maybe 2 cars' lengths between himself and John Langridge. Austin Lee is still well and truly there. Still giving chase, however, is Nicholas Stott, somewhat out of position down in what is 10th place. He lost a place on the opening lap.
So that's 1 lap chalked into the book, and I think everybody came through, did they, at the end of that first lap of the race? Yep, no casualties in the early stages. Nicholas Stott diving up the inside, trying to work his way through and past Will Morris, but Will is not going to have any of it. Sweeps across the nose of Nicholas Stott's car, so Nicholas can't gain a place. And here we've got Connor Clifford trying to get up the inside of Rowan Lundy. Sneaks his way through. The number 14 car gains his position on the way into the corner, but may well lose it on the way out of the corner as they start to build the momentum again and run side by side down in towards Hawthorne.
Yeah, big move there for that was Rowan Lundy. He's just about managed to I think fend off Connor Clifford. We wait for them to appear in the background. No, Connor Clifford remains in front, so a brilliant move from Connor Clifford. He did it at exactly the right time he would need to, but having made that move, the pair of them are now slowly starting to come under pressure from the number 17. That's Will Morris. He's there or thereabouts. He's just got to put a bit more pressure on. A small look up the inside on the run towards Sheens and can't quite open the door that time. Aidan Hill's still under pressure from everybody else. Aidan Hill's continuing to run away from everybody else thereafter. I was looking further down the order as well, and Alex Miller, he's at the moment, can't quite spot him. There he is in 11th place. The reason why I think Nicholas Stott was so pressured on trying to work his way forward is he could see Alex Miller getting bigger and bigger in his rearview mirror.
Now, here we go. Aidan Hill's back over the start-finish line. The amount of daylight ever growing. Another new fastest lap of the race for Aidan with a 1 minute 46.540. Grows the gap between himself and John Langridge up to now 1.8 seconds at the moment. The problem is they're all too busy squabbling behind. Rather than working together, they're too busy fighting for position, because that's your natural instinct. You want to finish as high up as possible. If they work together, they might be able to possibly do something about closing up, but it's John Langridge from Michael Nibbs, 2nd and 3rd place. Then it is going to be Declan Lee, who sits there in 4th position. 5th place will be the number 26 car, is it not, that's there in 5th position at this stage. And that will be the car of Fletcher, and then it's Perrin Smith, who's already taken a win so far this year. Daniel Perrin Smith, the number 73 car that's next up. He claimed a win at Donington Park earlier on in the season.
Drew Fletcher up into 5th place. He's had a very good start to his race. He's just trying to work his way through and past Michael Nibbs now. A small look to the inside. Sorry, Declan Lee, a small look to the inside of Michael Nibbs. Couldn't quite pressure the move, especially not at Hawthorns. However, Connor Clifford, a big move to the inside of Rowan Lundy. Unfortunately, they disappear out of our sight for a brief moment. Are they still side by side? No, not this time. However, Rowan Lundy has still got Will Morris packed up behind him. A big moment on the gravel and the grass, gets it all squared away, but that car was sideways to the direction of travel. That allows Nicholas Stott to go through, who fires the car through Sheen's curve. But what a save from Will Morris, Mark.
Lots of arm twirling, wasn't there, to try and bring that car back under his spell, and just about managed to do it. So they still continue, are able to fight another day, and if anything, he'll still be coming under pressure from the next of the cars that was sitting behind him, which is going to be Alex Miller, I think, the black car with the gold rollover hoop on it. Over the start-finish line, here comes John Langridge, about to complete a further lap up to 2nd place now. Michael Nibbs is there in 3rd place. Declan Lee not that far behind. Then we get the gap before we see Drew Fletcher fighting away with Daniel Perrin Smith. Just getting a quick look at what was going on further down through the order. That replay of that moment, as you suggested, for Will Morris, how sideways the car got. He corrected it. It started to get away from him again. A second correction, and actually didn't lose a great deal of time with that one. But he has now, I think, lost a further place. Has Alex Miller been able to squeak his way through? I think in the background of the shot, we might just be able to pick out as to whether he has made it stick or not. No, I don't think he has. No, I don't think he has. I think it's still Will Morris ahead of Alex Miller.
It is for now. Will Morris, so late on the brakes, dives up the inside of Nicholas Stott. However, Nicholas might just about get the cutback on the way through Surtees. We might just about see it in the background. Car very wide. That is the number 17 machine of Will Morris. Somehow, again, he keeps that car in a straight line, albeit maybe with a bit of cosmetic damage. I don't know whether he's helped towards the wall there, Mark.
Yeah, I couldn't quite see. We only saw the tail end of it. He's lost a load of momentum as he heads down towards Hawthorn. He's also lost the right-hand wing mirror off the car. He was so close to the barriers. If he hasn't got body damage, he's certainly got wing mirror damage, because I can see that flicking through the air. And that also now means that he is blind for any overtaking. Was he helped off? No, went off all on his own by the look of things, and at a fair amount of pace, bounces across the curb, and yeah, loses the driver's side wing mirror as a result of getting so close to the tyre barrier.
Dylan Stepney, what a move. 3 wide on the run-down Pilgrim's Drop and then back up towards Hawthorns. He forced it 3 wide. He managed to work his way through and past car number 19, that being David Chapman. I think he also managed to pick the pocket of car number 2, John Robinson, who at the moment is only going backwards. Towards the line comes Alex Miller, Aidan Hills, pardon me, still in the lead of the race, followed then by car number 5, John Langridge, who is still under pressure from Michael Nibbs. Declan Lee is there or thereabouts. This is the battle for 2nd place, currently heading up towards Druids once again. John Langridge is just managing the pace perfectly. I'm getting the feeling that Declan Lee, he's just struggling to hold on to the tail end of that little battle, but a big look up the inside. That's from Drew Fletcher. Can't quite open the door on Daniel Perrin Smith, but joining in on that little battle, car number 14, Connor Clifford.
Yeah, Connor Clifford gets pushed a little bit wide there, doesn't he, at the exit of Druids, but he's going to give it back, and he's not going to be pushed around by Drew Fletcher, so he manages to get himself through and ahead of what looks like his teammate, doesn't it, with very similar stripes down the centre of it. And if these are two teammates, they were fighting tooth and nail in the race earlier on, weren't they? And are doing exactly the same again now, but are both, I would say, driving hard, but fair, it'd be fair to say. Now, our race leader, Aidan Hills, whilst all of this squabbling has been going on, has opened up a 2.6-second advantage between himself and this trio heading down in towards Hawthorn, which is John Langridge, under attack from Michael Nibbs, whilst keeping a watching brief all of the time is the green car of Declan Lee. All three of them still opting just to sit behind each other as they head along the Derek Minter Straight. They bounce over the curbs on the way through Westfield Corner, trundle their way downhill before they then start to head into the blind entry up towards Sheen Curve. And are they, at the moment, closing the gap on the race leader? No, they're not. No matter what they do, even though they're not fighting now, they are still travelling slower than the race leader, Aidan Hills. Yeah, so Aidan is doing everything he needs to. He built that gap nice and early. Last time through, another fastest lap of the race, so 1 minute 46.535. So continuing to lap quicker than absolutely everybody out there is Aidan Hills. Still a bit of sort of bumping into each other very slightly on the exit of Stirling's, just everybody ushering each other for what will be the final half of this race, but it's just getting closer and closer and closer. You simply can't pick between a number of these battles, and we're seeing that pack racing form up once again. So we've got the lead pack. Go on, Mark. John Langridge ran really wide coming around through Druids Corner and lost second place. He didn't drop to third, he dropped to fourth. I think we're going to get a quick replay of it. So yeah, up towards Paddock Hill Bend, gets onto the brakes. Up the inside of him goes Michael Nibbs, and that forces him out onto the dirty tarmac. Door is open, and straight the way through goes Declan Lee. Thank you very much. 2 places lost. Yeah, forced a mistake there, did Declan Lee, or did Michael Nibbs. Did exactly what he needs to do. So both himself and Declan Lee exactly through the same little gap. But now Declan Lee is starting to apply that pressure onto Michael Nibbs, absolutely nose to tail as they work their way under the bridge and then down Pilgrim's Drop. It would be a very optimistic place to go for a move in towards Hawthorns along the Derek Minter Straight. If you can nail the exit, we could see Declan Lee work his way alongside, but through the woodland section of the circuit, he just seems to fall away. Maybe not quite so confident through the faster corners is Declan Lee compared to Michael Nibbs at the moment. You can just about see Aidan Hills in the distance, just continuing to pull away. Last time through, not quite so quick as we've seen him before, but the mid-pack is really where we need to be watching, Mark. It is, yeah, some great fights going on in the mid-pack, not least of which is Dylan Stepney at the wheel of the number 33 car, who's still fighting away with Clive Powell's trying to work his way through up into what would be a 12th position. So that means on this lap he's already dispatched another car behind him, which would have been the number 17 car, I think, that's now back behind him once more. So continually making good progress. And are we going to have another shuffle here? Yes, we are. Rowan Lundy fighting away with Alex Miller, who almost got edged towards the grass there. The two of them are going to be side by side as they come over the start-finish line. Now, through they'll go. This will be fighting for what will be 9th and 10th place. And Alex Miller goes through. Look, Rowan Lundy's dropped a little bit like a stone, hasn't he? He was right up there in the early stages, put a wheel wrong at Graham Hill Bend, and then from there has just sort of been picked off by everybody. He's really struggling. Yeah, I think it just very slightly threw him off his rhythm in the early stages of the race. A small mistake like that. Car number 2 of John Robinson, I think he's just lost out to the 17 of Will Morris. Of course, Will trying to recover from that earlier incident where he was very, very sideways on a couple of occasions, then just scraped the wall, lost a load of time. But, yeah, what a brilliant move from Alex Miller. He just kept on pushing and finally worked his way through and past. And as you say, it was very, very brave because he got incredibly close to the white line on the exit of Clark Curve. Yeah. So let's see as to what happens now with Rowan Lundy. Can he cling on to the coattails of Alex Miller, or is he just going to drop further back from him and fall into the clutches of someone else behind? Well, the next car behind will be the number 2 car, and that's quite a way behind John Robinson, so probably don't need to worry too much, Rowan Lundy. As for Dylan Stepney in the Dayglow coloured car, well, he's now coming under pressure by the look of things from the car that sits directly behind him. And that's going to be, was that the number 19 car, David Chapman, wasn't it, that is directly behind him and is looking to try and apply the pressure. Where's that going to be for? That is now going to be for something like, 15th position by the look of things, 14th, 15th position. So blue flags waving to forewarn our Jude Law-driven car, the number 20 car that the front runners are approaching. And we've also had a spin and a recovery there. That's Ian Abel, was it not? Yeah, so he's had a spin. And that was coming out of Westfield, I'd have thought. The car got away from him. He had to spin down in towards the bottom of Dingledell.
Yeah, I'd imagine they were, everything was crossed just to make sure that nobody would find him on the way through, because that's a very quick section of the circuit. Indeed, the battle is still raging on between Dylan Stepney and car number 19 of David Chapman. However, all of that battling is just allowing cars behind to get closer. I think we've got Simon Fleet there, and we see the moment on the live stream of Ian Abel. It was only a half spin through 90 degrees, just about managed to get that moment collected up. And as we go back to live pictures, still fighting away. I think that's Ed McDermott, was it? That's gone very, very, very wide indeed on the exit of Westfield, rumbling through the gravel. Don't know whether that was a replay or that was live pictures. I've got a feeling that was a replay.
Yeah, it looked like it was a replay, in which case he has been able to continue by the skin of his teeth. I think he might have got away with that one, but it did lose at least a couple of places. One to Ray Worley. And he's dropped down something like 24th position now as a result of that one, Ed McDermott. So our race leader, 3.3 seconds to the good. This is another quick replay, and this is Rowan Lundy all through the gravel trap at Paddock Hill Bend, raising the dust, eventually rejoins, but again a raft of places lost there for him. So Aidan Hill's leading away quite comfortably. We've now also maybe got a little bit of contact, have we? Yes, we have, I'm afraid. And there's some contact out on the circuit, and that was all to do with a couple of cars getting close to each other. Dylan Stepney got away with it, but unfortunately we have got David Chapman, who has come together and has got now damage to the front corner of his car, and Clive Powell's has also got damage to the rear corner of his.
Yeah, that was a big old moment. I think somebody else may have potentially been caught up in that one as well, but there was a big, big lockup. I think it was from Simon Fleet in pure avoidance, managing to get rid of, managing to keep out of that one. Let's see the replay. So we've got Dylan Stepney, a big dive up the inside of car number 15 of Clive Powell's. Clive Powell's then gets collected by David Chapman on the way through, and it was a big lockup from Simon Fleet. He did manage to avoid it, I think,
It was a massive lockup from Simon Fleet in avoidance of something he was rattling towards and was probably bracing for the impact, but thankfully the waters just parted in time for him, didn't they? We've still got fights going on, haven't we? Michael Nibbs cannot shake away in second place. Declan Lee, who is going nowhere. Then just behind them is going to be John Langridge, and John Langridge now is finding himself under pressure from the number 73 car of Daniel Perrin-Smith, who has been sort of quite quiet so far in this race. Now all of a sudden he's building momentum and putting himself in contention.
At Silverstone he was one to watch. He was very competitive at Silverstone indeed, but yeah, a fairly quiet weekend from him so far. I think he's just about found his feet in the final 10 minutes. Only 4.5 minutes remaining for today here at Brands Hatch. But yeah, the final 10 minutes, that car has really come alive into the pit lane. Naturally, we have seen car number 19. That is David Chapman. I'd imagine also into the pit lane. Yes, we do. We've also got actually a couple of drivers. We've got a car going very slowly down the pit lane as well. So maybe a couple of bits that we haven't seen, Mark, slowly starting to cause a bit of an issue. But the battles continue on. Bruce Robson, he's now under pressure from, I think that's Charlie Lane.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Charlie Lane looking for the inside line, heading up towards Hawthorne. Could he squeeze his way through? The answer is yes. Is he going to get off the corner cleanly and not run wide? The answer is yes. So good overtake that from Charlie Lane, racing for Misty Racing, squeezing his way through past Bruce Robinson. And the other car that was in the pit lane is the number 28 that's come into the pit lane, which is Jack Hodges.
Yeah, and of course we've got David Chapman in the pit lane, understandably, as he got collected in that little squabble as well. Clearly words being said there by David Chapman.
I think he said it wasn't my fault, I think, was it?
Yeah, something like that. Not exactly sure, but yeah, if you try and lip-read a race driver, you're playing a very dangerous game indeed. But in terms of Michael Nibbs and Declan Lee, they've been battling so hard, that's allowed John Langridge and Daniel Perrin-Smith to close up. So it's gone from 2 for second place and 2 for fourth to 4 cars all fighting over the final 2 steps on the podium.
And whose hands does it play into? It plays into Aidan Hill's, the race leader. Alex Miller is going to have to just park that car up, because the front right wheel is not turning on the number 7 car, and that I think is now come to a halt down on the inside of Graham Hill Bend. So he has come to a halt there and will be going no further. That little quartet of cars fighting away still continues, but they're not quite as close now, are they? They've maybe split out by another half a car length at this part of the circuit as they head round through Westfield.
Yeah, I'd say so. It seems like Michael Nibbs is definitely the stronger of potentially all 4 of them through the woodland section of the circuit. Heads up driving well and truly from Alex Miller. He's not had the best weekend, but I don't know whether it was wheel bearing failure or what, but immediately got that car to a safe place, avoiding any localised yellows or safety car interference. But Michael Knibbs, all the pressure is on his shoulders, because he's not just got Declan Lee, he's got John Langridge and Daniel Perrin-Smith all stacked up behind him. We've got 2 minutes and 12 seconds, 2 minutes and 10 seconds still remaining. Aidan Hills come towards the line. There's 2 laps left in this one, Mark.
There is one to the penultimate lap of the race goes Aidan Hills. Then that squabble with Michael Knibbs still trying to palm away the aspirations of Declan Lee in the green car, who sits there in 3rd position. John Langridge and Daniel Perrin-Smith not going at it to the same degree as they had been doing a few laps ago. But there's still time, there's still opportunities, there's still a couple of laps to go. So up towards the braking area for Druids. Now, Michael Knibbs took a bit of a strange line, I would say, through Druids that time through. Didn't quite get as tight to the apex as one might have thought. Has it cost him a bit of time? Yeah, maybe an extra quarter of a car length, which is all that Declan Lee needs to sniff out, really, because he'll know that the car ahead now is feeling the pressure.
Yeah, so he's just got to keep pushing, does Declan Lee, see what he can do about filling the mirrors, even if he has no intention of going to the move, just a little wobble left, a little wobble right, as he's doing now, putting the car half a car width wider than it should be, just to make sure that Michael Knibbs can see Declan Lee in his wing mirrors. Of course, with Alex Miller pulling over, that shuffles everybody up another couple of places. So we've now got the number 17 of Will Morris inside the top 10 after he's had a fairly crazy race, because he's had some very big moments indeed, and a small rub against the wall. This time Declan Lee so much quicker through Hawthorns, all the way along the Derek Minter straight. He was gaining, not quite so quick through Westfield. That slightly drops him back into the clutches of John Langridge, but I've got a feeling this is going to be 3 cars all fighting over 2nd place, because Daniel Perrin-Smith not quite there to the same degree as we've seen him already. Yeah,
I think it'll be the run to the line, not on this lap, but of course on the next lap that will be the all-important one. Michael Knibbs clinging by his fingertips onto 2nd place. Declan Lee desperate to try and attack, but is hugely conscious if he tries it and it doesn't work, he's got cars queuing up behind him, and soon John Langridge could sneak his way through, and Daniel Perrin-Smith as well. So over the start-finish line now go. Race leader is still Aidan Hills, leading by some 3.6, 3.7 seconds now. This quartet head on to the final lap of the race through Paddock Hill Bend, start to climb uphill towards Druids. Any small mistake, Jack, and they are easy to make around the challenging circuit like Brands, it's going to be pounced on, isn't it?
Yeah, you can see Declan Lee has really sort of turned up the aggression now, really starting to close up onto Michael Knibbs, just getting closer and closer and closer, just to force that mistake. He's not quite so quick through Sector 1. Aidan Hills' lead is very substantial. I've got a feeling there's more pace left in it. He's just realised that there's no need to push. It's the final race of the day. He's been holding his lead margin at 3.6 seconds. This time, Declan Lee, a slightly wider entry that might better the exit. Daniel Perrin-Smith, all of a sudden, he's back, becoming a challenger and distracting John Langridge. By way of that, John Langridge has fallen away from Declan Lee. So Declan Lee doesn't need to sort of split his attentions 50-50. He can go full attack now.
He is, and he's going full attack as they head up towards Hawthorn Corner. He jinked and took a tighter line in towards Hawthorn. That will compromise his exit speed and will drop him back away again from Michael Knibbs and puts him straight back into the clutches of John Langridge. So they had sort of paired off a little bit, hadn't they? Now all of a sudden they're all back squabbling again. It will be, I'm sure, the run to the line that might decide this one, but you've got to be clean through Sheen Curve, you've got to be clean coming out of Stirling's, and you've got to make sure you get a bit of a tow up towards the start-finish line. Are we going to see any shuffling in the order? Because they've been in this order for the last 4 or 5 laps, despite the fact that they've been ridiculously close to each other. Aidan Hills is on course to make it 2 out of 2 this weekend at Brands Hatch on the Grand Prix circuit and secure not just round 5, but also round 6 of the Miata Trophy for 2024. Aidan Hills claims the win. Who's going to finish in 2nd place on the run to the line? It's just going to be Michael Knibbs ahead of Declan Lee, and then it will be John Langridge from Daniel Perrin-Smith. They did not change order in the end, unfortunately. Finishing in 6th place, it will be Connor Clifford that finishes in 6th place out of Drew Fletcher in 7th. Nicholas Stott should come through in 8th place. Rowan Lundy had a bit of a strange old race, really. He finishes in 9th place, and completing the top 10 will be Will Morris in the end. But lots of sliding around and celebrations from Aidan Hills. A busy man. The family-run team are one of the teams to beat in the Miata Trophy and other championships in which similar cars race. But Aidan Hills will be delighted with the fact that he has claimed back-to-back wins here at Brands Hatch. And has really shown a clean pair of heels to everybody. The pace that he's had right the way throughout the course of qualifying, Super Pole, race 1 before the red flag, and race 2, which went thankfully green all of the way, has been something that everybody will aspire to in reality. So the cars making their way back in towards the pit lane area. They will pack things away and dig them all back out again on the 29th of June when they head to Donington Park on the national circuit before they head to Anglesey in July. Then it's Snetterton on the 300 in August. We've still got some battles going on out on circuit at the moment, and this is going to be Liz Watson fighting away with Gary Smith. Gary Smith desperate to try and squeeze his way through and past and ahead of Liz Watson. And as they head underneath the bridge, is there any opportunity up towards Clearways and Clark Curve? No, I think Gary is just too far away, so Liz Watson should be all right to come through. Liz Walton, rather, should be all right to come through and finish in 21st position. And Gary Smith is going to have to put up, I'm afraid, with finishing in 22nd position. So Liz Walton just hanging on to the position. So Aidan Hills is down there in the pit lane. He looks, as you would expect, pleased as punch with that one. And it looked as though he was very much in control of it all the way. Won by 4.4 seconds, nearly 4.5 seconds in the end. I'm sure he could have gone quicker, but just wanted to maintain that gap. So for himself and the family team, a solid day's work. And yeah, a punch of the air, a clench of the fist, and 2 out of 2 for Aidan Hills, who shortly will make his way up on towards the podium presentations, where I think they'll be presenting the trophies for both race 1 and race 2, because we didn't get the chance to chat to any of the Miata drivers or present their trophies over the course of the day earlier on. So a quick shake of the hands to his fellow drivers on the podium, to Declan Lee and to Michael Nibbs, who are all in the process of jumping out of their car. Kevin Sylvain, who I think was the first of the Mark IVs home as well, out of his car, the number 62 car in the background of the shot. But for everybody else, no need for them to be in the pit lane. They'll all head back in towards their outer paddock area. And as we say, pack up the kit, pack the cars away. So let's confirm the results then. Aidan Hills claims the win by nearly 4.5 seconds in the end from Michael Nibbs in 2nd place. Declan Lee came home to finish in 3rd place. John Langridge was 4th, ahead of Daniel Perrin-Smith in 5th place. And it was Connor Clifford that completed the top 6. Drew Fletcher, Nick Stott, Rowan Lundy, and then Will Morris completed the top 10. As we move outside of the top 10, Dylan Stepney finished in 11th place. Then it was John Robinson who finished in 12th place, ahead of Simon Fleet in 13th. And the first of the Mark IVs home, Kelvin Sylvain, finished in 14th position. Then in 15th place, it was Lane that finished in 15th place. That's Charlie Lane, ahead of Mike Heath. And then the car of Bruce Robinson that completed 17th. Edward McDermott, Ray Worley, and Ian Abel wrapped up the top 20. So moved outside of the top 20. Liz Walton was embroiled in a battle towards the end. She finishes 21st, ahead of Gary Smith, who finishes in 22nd. And a lap adrift, the only car to be lapped, was Jude Worley. And that wraps up the results from what has been a busy old day here at Brands Hatch for the Miata trophies, in perfect conditions as well. Clear blue skies. The weather forecast that promised rain over the course of this afternoon hasn't happened. So our drivers are going to head up towards the podium. And I think I can hear in the background, Jack Werrell is on the podium, ready to introduce them.
I am indeed. So all of the trophies will be handed to the drivers by Mandy, the championship coordinator. So we'll go in reverse order for the overall top 3 first. So in 3rd place from Hills Motorsport, car number 1, Declan Lee. So onto the podium he will go, a shake of the hand, and trophy in hand as well. And 2nd place in the Hills Motorsport number 82 machine is Michael Nibbs. So again, onto the podium, a wave to his team. Mandy, the championship coordinator, shakes his hand, and given the Brands Hatch cap and the trophy. And the winner here at Brands Hatch for race number 2, car number 8 from Hills Motorsport, Aidan Hills. The 2nd time today, Aidan Hills.